Now, let's take a look at another very comprehensive document from the esteemed scholar Dr. Clive Winters in regard to the Nagas. We suggest that you seek out his work as it is going to clarify much of what we are presenting in regard to the matter of the relationship between the ancient Kushites and the early Indus Valley region referred to as Dravidians, and the Harappan civilization. The Kushites lived in Africa and Eurasia, yet the Kushites originated in Africa. Researchers have observed that many of the Caucasus hunter-gatherers and early European farmers' populations carried R1A and R1B clades and cultivated millet, which was not cultivated in Central Asia and the Middle East until thousands of years after it was cultivated at Nabta in Africa, and in the Ukraine by Caucasus hunter-gatherers and early European farming populations, whom were all carbon organics. Interestingly, the Caucasian hunter-gatherers carried the R1B1 and R1B1A lineages. Some researchers claim that these clades are distant relatives of V88, and that V88 is the result of a back migration from Eurasia to Central Africa. The archaeological evidence, on the other hand, lacks any corroboration of a back migration from Eurasia. Instead, the archaeogenetic evidence indicates that Niger-Congo-speaking Africans from North Africa and the Sahara-Sahel, called Kushites in the historical literature, early settled Crete, Iberia, and Anatolia, and that these Africans introduced R1B, the bell beaker, and the agro-pastoral cultural traditions into Eurasia during the Neolithic. The linguistic, anthropological, and linguistic data make it clear that the Dravidian people came to India from Africa during the Neolithic and not the Holocene period. Controversy surrounds the origin of the Dravidian languages. Winters, 1989, 2002, outlines the alleged relationship of Dravidian languages to Elamite, Sumerian, and Japanese. Although the relationship of Dravidian languages to these languages is disputed, there is abundant evidence that Dravidian languages are genetically related to the Niger-Congo group. Aravanin 1979, 1980, Hamburger 1948, 1957, Sergeant 1992, Upadhyaya 1976, 1979, Winters 1985, 1988, 1989, 2002. In the subcontinent of India, there were several main groups. The traditional view for the population origins in India suggests that the earliest inhabitants of India were the Negritos, and this was followed by the Proto-Australoid, the Mongoloid, and the so-called Mediterranean type, which represent the ancient Egyptians and Kushites. The Proto-Dravidians were probably one of the cattle herding groups that made up the C-group culture of Nubia Kush. B. Lal, 1963, an Indian Egyptologist, has shown conclusively that the Dravidians originated in the Saharan area 5,000 years ago. He claims they came from Kush, in the fertile African crescent, and were related to the C-group people who founded the Kerma dynasty in the 3rd millennium BC. The Dravidians used a common black and red pottery, which spread from Nubia, through modern Ethiopia, Arabia, Iran into India as a result of the Proto-Saharan dispersal. B. Lal, 1963, a leading Indian archaeologist in India, has observed that the black and red ware dating to the Kerma dynasty of Nubia is related to the Dravidian megalithic pottery. Singh, 1982, believes that this pottery radiated from Nubia to India. This pottery, along with wavy line pottery, is associated with the Saharo-Sudanese pottery tradition of ancient Africa. Aravanin, 1980, has written extensively on the African and Dravidian relations. He has illustrated that the Africans and Dravidians share many physical similarities, including the dolichocephalic indexes, Platyrrhine nasal index, stature, and blood type. Aravanin, 1980. Aravanin also presented much evidence for analogous African and Dravidian cultural features, including the chipping of incisor teeth and the use of the lost wax process to make bronze works of arts. There are also similarities between the Dravidian and African religions. For example, both groups held a common interest in the cult of the serpent and believed in a supreme god who lived in a place of peace and tranquility. There are also affinities between the names of many gods, including Aman, Amma, and Murugan. Murugan, the Dravidian god of the mountains, parallels a common god in East Africa worshipped by 25 ethnic groups called Murungu, the god who resides in the mountains. There is physical evidence which suggests an African origin for the Dravidians. The Dravidians live in South India. The Dravidian ethnic group includes the Tamil, Kuruk, Malayalam, Kannada, Kannarese, Tulu, Telugu, etc. Some researchers, due to the genetic relationship between the Dravidians and Niger-Congo-speaking groups, they call the Indians the Sudroid. Dravidian languages are predominantly spoken in southern India and Sri Lanka. These languages are genetically related to African languages. The Dravidians are remnants of the ancient black population who occupied most of ancient Asia and Europe and would be the original Aryans of the region, as free civilized nobles.